What did we learn from the last economic meltdown? Well, as an executive recruiter who at the time specialised almost exclusively in property, I can tell you for me it was an absolute bloodbath. Candidates and clients that I'd been building relationships with for years were being made redundant left, right and centre. However, I did see some people do some amazing things in that period in order to keep their jobs, and I want to share those things with you today. This is my video of my 5 top tips on how to stay employed in a pandemic and also make yourself more valuable to the organisation in the long term. Hi, I'm Inika McMahon. I'm an executive recruiter with 2 decades of experience, and I'm also the co-founder of the Path to Promotion P2P Learning and Development Academy. At the Path to Promotion, we help people to future-proof themselves for something like this and also to find fulfillment in their careers. We've had economic meltdowns and recessions in the past, not nearly as bad as today's, of course, but if you are in danger of losing your job, you don't really care if you are one person or 1 in a million people. Your world and your empire is completely collapsing. Today, with rising unemployment and uncertainty of unprecedented levels, it is time we learned how to make yourself so valuable that you are absolutely going to keep your job and stay employed. What happens in a crisis? Well, I can tell you the biggest thing your company will be worrying about right now, it's cash flow. And the less money that's going out the door, the more jobs that can be saved. One of my previous clients in the GFC saved many of his staff when others, his competitors, lost almost all of those with very quick thinking and action. He saw the writing on the wall early and brought his team together and said, listen, we need to work harder and we need to do it for less money. Everyone took a temporary pay cut of almost 20% really early in the crisis. They gave up their bonuses, they didn't go on holidays, and they made sure they were all working as hard as they could. A couple of people who could afford to go part-time did so, and although this client did eventually have to make a couple of people redundant, it was the majority of the team that he was able to save. And I have to say, I would call that effort an absolute success. Fantastic. So that brings me to step number 1. Ask yourself, what can I do to help my department financially? Immediately have a look at anything you might be doing that can cost the company money or as an outgoing, and stop the things that aren't absolutely necessary. Have a look and see, are there things that you can do yourself that you would normally pay an external contractor or another company to do? Also, you might need to be prepared to offer to work for less money if it's really important for you to keep your job. I know it's hard to say, but it is really important in these times. And in order to do that, what you need to do is firstly, cut back on all your personal spending on things that aren't necessary, work out what your budget is and what you need to survive, and go to your boss and offer to reduce your pay to that amount. Now, clearly, if you're a government employee, you're not able to do this, but do think of ways how you can save the department in money or resources. Step number 2, instead of fight or flight, get better at negotiating. We all know about the fight or flight response. It's also called the acute stress response. It's a physiological reaction that occurs in response to a perceived harmful event, attack, or threat to survival. A stressful situation, whether it's something environmental, such as a looming work deadline, or psychological, such as persistent worry about losing a job, can trigger a cascade of stress hormones that produce a well-orchestrated physiological change. Can anyone think of anything stressful happening in the world right now? This response evolved as part of a survival mechanism, enabling both people and other mammals to react quickly to life-threatening situations. The carefully orchestrated sequence of hormonal changes and physiological response actually helps someone to fight off a threat or flee to safety. Unfortunately, our bodies can also overreact to stresses that are not life-threatening, such as work pressure or the threat of losing our jobs. Over the years, researchers have learned that not only how these reactions occur, but they've also gained insight into the long-term effects of chronic stress and what this has on our physical and psychological health. Over time, I'm sad to say, repeated activation of an acute stress response takes a toll on us. Research suggests that chronic stress contributes to high blood pressure, promotes the formation of artery clogging deposits, and it causes brain changes that may contribute to anxiety, depression, and addiction. Whine, anyone? Developing negotiation skills can actually help you deal with this anxiety, especially if it means you can negotiate keeping your job. SheNegotiates.com, one of my favorite websites, recently sent me an article about a young PR consultant in Los Angeles who was told she was losing her job in the 2008 crash. This woman simply refused to be fired. The CEO told her that her services were no longer needed. She was wiping the tears off her face. She decided to negotiate her job back. She stated that she thought to herself, this is crazy. I am making heaps of money for the organization. The CEO must just not be in the loop with what I'm doing. The CEO was asking her to pack up her desk and turn in her key card when she said, you cannot fire me. The CEO said, listen, take a day or two off and we'll resume the conversation. Instead of doing what most of us would, go home and cry or eat a whole cake, she instead decided to become her own PR agent. She went through all her emails for client testimonials. She gathered the best work that she'd done and calculated the value that she'd added to the organization, not only in revenue that she'd brought in, but also the key achievements that she'd done over and above her role. So what was she doing here? She was doing what good negotiators do, gathering evidence of their market value. When she returned to work after the few days off, not only was she ready to negotiate her job back, but she actually convinced herself that she was being underpaid. That woman is now the CEO of a very large PR firm that she started herself. It's one of the fastest growing organizations in America, and she also sits on a Forbes panel. Pretty impressive. That brings me to step number 3, which is take on more responsibilities. Look, unless everyone in your organization is being laid off because the business is closing or relocating, the question is not whether there'll be redundancies, but whether you will be one of those redundancies. You are much less subject to a panicked response if you've planned ahead. So who does escape the axe? Let me tell you, it is the employees who can do more than their own job. When a company's in strife, they want to retain the people who can perform as many of the company's necessary functions as possible. This can require some advanced planning, so try and learn the basics of someone else's job or ask your manager what they would most need assistance with if they had to cut back numbers, and start doing those things today. Try to do as much as you can. Now, if you're enjoying this video so far, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. We've got great videos coming up every week. Step number 4, you need to make your boss's job easier. If you can free your boss up to focus on what she or he needs to do in this crisis, you will make yourself more invaluable. Ask yourself first what you can do to make their job easier and see if there are any key tasks that you can take on. In my experience, most bosses hate the report writing piece or the board reports. So with most of us working from home at the moment, that's something that you can offer to take off their plate. They might want to do some editing, but if you can do the grunt work, that'll really help. Also, do ask your boss how you can contribute to the goals that they're trying to achieve. And during a time of crisis, never let your manager be blindsided. Over-communication is better than under-communication at this time, particularly when we're not working together. So be the problem solver in the team. Come with solutions to anything that could be a professional problem. Step number 5 is work hard. I love it when people say yes. Now, what was the question? And people love to work with people who are prepared to contribute. I'm not saying you have to work the longest hours, but you do need to be prepared to work. Be attentive to deadlines and be punctual. People who value other people's time are quite highly regarded in an organization. We all know people who waltz into meetings 10 minutes late, and at this time it'd be pinging into a video conference 10 minutes late. It's super annoying. And it also affects your personal brand. It makes you think others' time isn't as important as yours. So nothing works unless you do, work that is. So in the time of crisis, any time spent on social media is an absolute vortex. When it's time to work, you need to be working. In a previous video, I talked about how to be productive when working from home, and Amber's also taught you how to look good and sound confident on a video call. You probably want to watch those videos now. You also don't want to miss downloading our ultimate cheat sheet on how to get a pay rise, a promotion, or more perks at work. Guess what? Most of that advice will actually probably help you to keep your job in this environment. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Inika McMahon. Please subscribe to the channel and have a great day.